Hello, my name's Mandy and this is my channel Make It So. Today I am talking about my collaboration with the lovely Michelle from Michelle the Menopausal Sewer. We've been chatting for quite a few months now and become good friends. I've met Michelle through YouTube and from sewing. It's been lovely to chat with her, and she knew that I would like to make the Billy sweater dress. So she suggested that we did this at the same time, and the funny thing was I didn't realise that we had exactly the same fabric. So although we've done them slightly different, and you'll see from her video when you watch that one, in principle we were making the same dress. Michelle is shorter than me. I think she's about 5 foot and I'm 5'8", so really we were doing completely opposites in that I would have to lengthen the pattern and she might need to shorten it. So it's good to compare, and she was really helpful along the way because she'd made the Billy dress before, or I think she'd done it in a sweater actually, so she knew how the pattern was made up. It's a pattern by Tilly and the Buttons. It comes in 2 styles. You can either have a sweater, or I call it a jumper, or a dress, and the dress has pockets and this hemband at the bottom, and I can show you on the back, hopefully you'll be able to see that. So we both decided that we'd go for the dress. So what I did first, Michelle has made this before but I've never made it, so I decided to make a twirl of it first. And what I'm going to do is just insert a video clip here where I talk about the twirl and whether I was happy with the fit or what I wanted to do with it. This is my Billy twirl. I've done nothing to the pattern with this one because I wanted to see how it all fitted together and how it came up. I'm not saying it's not a wearable twirl at all, but I'm hoping from this distance you can see that it's quite short on me because it's not designed for a 5'8" model. And I'm not loving this hemband, how it cinches in, just because of my shape. I do tend to hold it mainly in the middle. The sleeves, again, I like them to be here, so I'm probably thinking of putting another 2 inches onto my make when I do this again with my cable knit. I'm not sure how stretchy that is compared to this Ponte. This Ponte's from Legend Textiles, and I think it would just be nice when I stretch for it not to go halfway up my arm. Slight exaggeration, I know, but it feels like that. Also, it feels with, the reason I don't like the hemband is because I feel it rides up, so when I sit down and stuff in it. So I'm thinking probably another 3 inches on there, but if I don't use the band, obviously I'd need to add that width as well and think of hem. Obviously this hemband has got 5/8 inch or 1.5 centimetre seam allowance, so it probably would just be a case of measuring whatever the width is of the hemband plus another 3 inches. So the next question obviously is, am I happy where the pockets are, or would I want to take them down slightly? They're not too bad. I'm not really going to be using them as much as I would maybe a trouser pocket, because again, I'll just show you with my phone. When I put that in, I do feel like that just adds bulk, and I don't really want to be doing that with this. So next one is going to be an extra 3 inches long, I reckon 2 inches in the arms, and then I'll see where the pocket placement is, but I think I'm happy with the placement on the pockets. So I'll just give you a little model catwalk like I do. Really happy with the fit here, and the actual fit round me, quite happy with. That's just the usual thing for me, which is the length. So after the twirl, I decided to extend the length of the dress because it was quite short on me, and when I sat down I felt it pulled at the neckband as well, and the arms were slightly too short for me, so I talked about how I was going to do that as well. And I also did a little filming of the process of me lengthening the pattern. I know a lot of you would know how to do it, but there might be just that one person that's never had to lengthen a pattern before, where it's got pockets as well. So I thought that might be a good little tutorial to show you how I did it. I'm not saying it's the best way, but that's how it worked for me. I'm just measuring the hemband, and I'll show you two ways I'm doing it. So if I measure that on the actual dress, it's 3 inches with the seam allowance included, or because this is folded over, this is the hem pattern, and you'll see up to where you fold it is 3 inches. So I'm going to have to add a 6 inches onto the length of the bodice, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that because I will need to move the pockets as well. This is the front bodice piece, and when you cut it out for the pockets you take out this piece as well, which I kept because I did wonder if I'd need to move the pocket as well. So what I'm going to do first is, on the pattern it says lengthen or shorten here. So I'm going to get my paper rotary cutter that I've got. And my quilting ruler. And then I'm going to cut in the middle of these two lines. Right in the middle. So now you've got your two different pieces, and I need to add 3 inches in there. So I'll get some paper and I'll come right back. First thing I do to make sure the paper is straight is I line it up with my cutting mat and draw a straight line, which you'll see I've already done. And then I'll get the top of the bodice and I'll line it up with that line. It's already got some tape on it because I made a bit of a boo-boo and only done a 3-inch gap, and I need 6. So I'm doing it again. So the next thing I do is line up my quilting ruler with that line again. And the width of this is actually 6 inches, so I can just draw a line. Excuse my camera shadow. I'll just draw a line here, and that's my 6 inch line. Also, I'm aware there's a fold line. If I can position this so you can see it better. There's a fold line here on the pattern. So I'm just going to draw a line down so that when I join the bottom part of the bodice, I have something to gauge, to check its level with the top piece. So I've drawn that there. And then I'm going to line it up like I said, that bottom bit with that line there, and the line I drew in that shows 6 inches. You can see there is a slight extra bit where you lengthen and shorten the pattern in the middle, but that's not going to make much of a difference. It'll probably go in the seam allowance anyway when you're sewing. I'm just going to write plus 6 inches so I know exactly how much I've done for that if I do the pattern again. And then I just need to draw in a straight line to make sure that the top of the bodice, the bottom of the bodice are level And I can get my rotary cutter and just cut that excess piece off. So just like you're cutting the fabric really. So I'm going to cut a straight line here because I need to move my pocket next. So what I decided for this to do was measure the difference between where the waist notch was originally and where the lengthen and shorten line was. And you'll see it's about 1.5 inches. So what I need to do now is move my pocket up so I can see where the lengthen and shorten, if I say 2 inches actually, because that will be where this is where the pocket started. But what I'm going to have to do is actually go right up to here where I've just pulled that apart where the lengthen and shorten line is, measure down 2 inches, and that is actually going to be where my pocket needs to be. So you'll see it needs to be here, it's currently here. And I do have the pocket cutout piece still. So what I can do is, using it as a template, if I start lining it up with that 2 inch mark here, and then put it alongside the side and draw the shape roughly. So obviously we're going to cut that out anyway. And I need to just infill where I cut out originally, so I can do this and stick it back on hopefully. Right, I've done my adjustments for the front bodice of the Billy, and I've remarked where my waist notch is, and that's the difference between where it used to be from the lengthen and shorten line and where it is now. And then the same with the pocket, how it was. So you'll see that I've cut that out, I've marked the notches where the pockets are going to be, and you'll see where it was before, and it's got the 6 inches on it. So you'll see if I show you like this how much extra I've added, which is that much, because I'm not having the hemband at the bottom. So I'm now going to do the back piece, which is going to be a lot easier because you haven't got the pocket to worry about. So all I'm going to do is exactly the same, cut across the lengthen and shorten line and add 6 inches to it. And it is quite a straight, really, there's only a slight curve, and you've got on the fold, so I can just do that part straight and that should then work out right. So I'm now going to do that. I've done the bodices, so I'm now on to the sleeve piece, and you'll see there's a line again on the pattern that says lengthen, although it does say 3 inch length here, but you have the double lines, which is normally the lengthen and shorten line. So I need to add another 2 inches onto that. So I'm going to do exactly the same as before and cut through it. But you'll notice with the sleeve, it does go at a diagonal. Not sure you'll be able to really see that properly. So it does go inwards from that point. So when I do lengthen it, I'll just have to make sure that we still have that angling in so that it doesn't get too wide at the bottom for the cuffs. So I'll do that and come back. I've added my 2 inches onto the sleeve. I'll write that on now, plus 2 inches. The only thing was, you line it up with your grain line to make sure that it's still going to be straight on your fabric when you cut it. But I did have slight excess on the edges, so I've just graded it in so that I've kept exactly the same width here on the sleeve for the cuff. But it's a nice fluid line down each side. So I'm going to cut it out, and then the next time you'll see it is when it's made. So after my changes, I sewed my pattern up in this lovely First for Fabrics cable knit that I was very lucky enough to be able to purchase when I won a voucher in the competition A Gift to November last year. So I knew exactly what I wanted to make with it straight away. And it's just funny how Michelle and myself both had the same type of fabric. I'm not sure where she got hers from, I can't remember. But if you go and watch her video after this, or if you've seen it before me, you'll see where she got hers from. So after that, I made it all up, and I'm just going to insert another clip. I'm sorry I'm going all over the place, just to show you what I thought of the fit and how it looks on me from front, side and back. Here it is. So, what have I done? I've increased the length of the arms by 2 inches, which I'm a lot happier with, because when I do that it doesn't feel like they're going halfway up my arm. And I've also increased the length by 6 inches in total, once I took the hemband out like I showed you in the clip before. I've only basted the hem. I did it by 1 inch just to see how it went, and I'm quite happy with where it sits now. Hopefully you can see that. I'll just lower the camera so you can see that better. So there's my knee. Pockets are in the right place because I've moved them up. So what is the verdict? Well, I love how it fits around my shoulders. It sits really nicely where it should do. I love how the pattern fits right up to about here. And that's where for me it does go a bit wrong. I explained before when I showed you my twirl, I do tend to hold it in the middle. So I always find that when I have a garment that comes in at the waist and then flows outwards, that suits me quite nicely and I feel quite good in it. With this one, although I omitted the hemband, it still does, the pattern still does go inwards. So it does tend to hang where you stick out the most. And for me, unfortunately, it's right in the middle on my bottom and my waist. And for that reason, I don't feel wow in it. I think from the front, I'm quite happy with it. But then, unfortunately, when I turn around, again, I'll lower the camera so you can see what I'm on about. It just goes in. So I feel, to me, this is not really the cut that I want to look for. I went by the finish measurements rather than my usual size. So instead of a size 7, I did go for a size 6. So maybe I went wrong there, but I'll be honest, I don't think that slight change in size would have made much difference to how the pattern's cut. So now I've got to decide, do I love it like this, or do I want to try and adjust it so that I'd feel much better in it. So that's where we're left. You'll find out in a little while what I did. Okay, so you've seen what it looks like. I wasn't totally happy with it, and I wasn't sure that I was going to wear it how it was, so I went a bit drastic. So shall I show you what I did? Are you ready for this? I'm just going to move the camera slightly, and I'm hoping you'll be able to see this if I put the camera up or down in my case. I cut it. I had to leave the pockets in because of how they sat on the side, and if I'd gone up any higher that just would not have worked because you actually cut out the shape in the front bodice, so I wouldn't have been able to stick it very well, or sew it, not stick it, I don't use glue, do I? So I wouldn't have been able to sew it, it would have looked really funny. So what I did instead was, after putting 6 inches on the length to make this into a sweater, I didn't use a hemband, I cut off 9 inches and used an inch hem. And what I did with the pockets was, I got my overlocker and I decided how I could still get my hand in, and I just whizzed along and cut it off as I went. And then to make the other one exactly the same, I just traced round the one I'd done with the chalk and sewed it up. There's still some loose threads on that one. I have to say I'm a lot happier with how it looks as a sweater. Obviously for the normal Tilly bin and button sweater you wouldn't have the pockets, but it was going to be really difficult to save this fabric otherwise. I feel better in it not having that going in around my hips, and it's definitely more wearable for me. The twirl I think looks okay with leggings, maybe because it's shorter, I don't know. What is your experience of sewing the Billy? Did you love it as it was? Did you have to lengthen it or shorten it? Do you prefer the sweater version or the dress version? Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'd love to know what you think of whether maybe I did the lengthening slightly incorrect, but I did exactly how I thought it should be, where the pockets were still the same distance from the waist notch. So anything you found you struggled with or had issues with, let me know. I'm not saying I hate the pattern. I always love Tilly and the Buttons patterns because she goes through it in such detail that you feel like she's holding your hand as you go. So there's no issue with the pattern. It is just, for me, the style it is because of how it tapers in at the bottom, and it's just not for me, I'm afraid. So that was my Billy experience. Thank you so much, Michelle, for joining me in this collaboration. I can't wait to see yours, and I'll be watching your video shortly. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you don't already subscribe to my channel, please subscribe. So I'll hopefully see you on Friday sews. Take care for now. Bye.